St. Lawrence thought he was safe. August 9th, 257. Rome burns under Emperor Valerian's Christian purge, and the church's treasurer holds the keys to everything. Gold, silver, sacred vessels worth fortunes. The prefect wants it all. Lawrence asks for 3 days. Time to gather the wealth, he says. Time to hand it over clean. 3 days later, Lawrence returns, not with treasure chests, with the poor, the sick, the blind, lines of broken people stretching across the forum. Here, he tells the prefect. It is the church's true treasure. Wrong answer. If you value documented early Christian history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Passion of St. Lawrence and Roman martyrological records. Now back to the story. They drag him to the palace courtyard. No quick blade, no strangling cord. The prefect orders the gridiron brought out. Iron bars laid over burning coals. A torture device that cooks flesh while keeping the victim conscious. Lawrence's crime isn't theft, it's mockery, making the empire look weak. That demands spectacle. The gridiron measures 8 feet long, 3 feet wide. Iron bars spaced 4 inches apart. Underneath, hardwood burns down to white-hot coals. Temperature reaches 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit at the surface, hot enough to sear meat instantly, hot enough to keep a man alive while his body cooks. They strip Lawrence naked. 4 soldiers pin his arms and legs. The iron hisses when his back touches the bars. Skin splits like parchment. The smell of burning flesh fills the courtyard. Witnesses later describe the sound, not screaming, but something worse, flesh crackling like fat in a pan. Roman records show the torture lasted 3 hours. They rolled him side to side, ensuring even cooking. His ribs show through charred skin. Muscle tissue separates from bone. The gridiron's design prevents quick death. The spacing lets heat reach every part without immediate fatal damage to vital organs. But Lawrence wasn't just any Christian. He was Pope Sixtus's right hand, the keeper of church finances across the empire. When Valerian's edict arrived, demanding all Christian property be seized, Lawrence held the master lists. Every donation, every hidden treasure, every safe house location. The prefect needed those records more than gold. Sixtus died 4 days earlier, beheaded in the catacomb of Praetextatus while celebrating Mass. His blood still stained the altar stones when they came for Lawrence. The church's entire leadership structure crumbled in 72 hours. Deacons executed in their homes, priests dragged from hiding spots. The empire struck like lightning. Lawrence knew they were coming. His network of informants stretched from the Palatine Hill to the Subra slums, Christian servants in wealthy households, freed slaves who remembered their former faith, even sympathetic soldiers who whispered warnings. He could have fled, taken ship to North Africa, disappeared into the desert monasteries. Instead, he liquidated everything, sold silver chalices to grain merchants, traded gold crosses for medicine and blankets, emptied the church treasury in 3 days and distributed every denarius to Rome's poorest districts. The Trastevere beggars ate like kings. Widows received enough coin to last months. Orphans got new clothes and warm meals. The prefect expected vaults full of treasure. What he got was accounting ledgers showing zero balance, every entry marked distributed to the poor. The imperial bureaucrat who built his career on confiscated wealth found empty coffers and mocking receipts. Lawrence had given it all away. Ah, where is the gold? The prefect's voice echoes off the courtyard walls. Invested, Lawrence replies. It's earning interest in heaven. More mockery, more defiance. The prefect signals his men. Time for the gridiron to speak. Halfway through, Lawrence lifts his head, looks straight at the prefect. His voice carries across the courtyard, steady despite the agony. Turn me over. I'm done on this side. The joke breaks something in the crowd. Some laugh nervously, others recoil. A man cooking alive, making quips about his own torture. The prefect's face goes white. This isn't how executions work. Victims beg, scream, break. They don't mock their killers while burning. But Lawrence keeps talking, praises God between gasps. Thanks the prefect for helping him reach heaven. Each word drives the point deeper. Rome can destroy his body, but not his spirit. The empire that controls the known world can't control one man's tongue. The crowd grows larger. Word spreads through the city like wildfire. A Christian is burning alive and cracking jokes. People abandon their shops, leave their dinners cooling, rush to see the spectacle. By hour 2, 300 Romans pack the courtyard. Senators rub shoulders with street sweepers. Everyone wants to witness the impossible. Lawrence's background explains the defiance. Born in Huesca, northern Spain, to a wealthy family with military connections. His father served as a centurion under Emperor Philip. The boy grew up around soldiers, learned to hide fear, developed the black humor that keeps men sane in battle. When he converted to Christianity at age 20, those survival skills came with him. He studied in Caesar Augusta under Bishop Valerius, rhetoric, philosophy, Greek theology. The young Spaniard showed exceptional talent for organization and finance. When Valerius became pope and moved to Rome, Lawrence followed as his personal secretary. Within 5 years, he managed the entire papal treasury. Gold flowed through his hands like water. The gridiron method wasn't random cruelty. Roman law prescribed specific punishments for specific crimes. Theft merited crucifixion. Treason earned beheading. But contempt of imperial authority, making the emperor look foolish, demanded slow, public torture. The prefect chose the gridiron because Lawrence's joke about treasure required an equally theatrical response. Archaeological evidence from Verano Cemetery shows the aftermath. Lawrence's remains recovered after Christianity became legal, display thermal damage consistent with prolonged high heat exposure. Bone fragments show calcification patterns, matching gridiron torture. Carbon dating confirms mid-3rd century burial. The prefect orders more fuel added. The fire burns hotter. Lawrence's hair ignites. His fingernails blacken and fall off. Skin peels away in sheets, revealing muscle and bone underneath. Still he speaks. Still he jokes. Still he refuses to break. Witnesses describe his final hour in disturbing detail. The deacon Pontius, hiding in the crowd. Later wrote to Christians in Carthage. Lawrence's left arm cooked completely through. Bone showed white against charred meat. His right leg twisted at an unnatural angle, tendons snapping from the heat. Yet his voice never wavered. Thank you, he tells the prefect during minute 160. This warmth feels good after Rome's cold dungeons. Another joke, another impossibility. The prefect stops pacing, stares at the burning man in disbelief. His entire career built on breaking prisoners, tax evaders, political dissidents, rebellious slaves, they all cracked eventually. But this Spanish deacon treats torture like entertainment. If you're enjoying this deep dive into early Christian persecution, make sure to subscribe for more documented historical content. Also comment which country you're watching from. Now back to Lawrence's final moments. The Christian community watched from concealment. Bishop Hippolytus hid among the vendors' stalls. Deacon Stephen crouched behind a column. They memorized every word, every gesture. Preparing to turn Lawrence's death into propaganda, his jokes would echo through catacombs for centuries. His defiance would inspire martyrs across the empire. Roman bureaucracy documented everything. The prefect's final report, preserved in Vatican archives, lists precise details. 3 hours, 47 minutes of torture. Temperature maintained at 900 to 1,000 degrees. Victim remained conscious until final 30 seconds. No information extracted. Total cost, 12 denarii for fuel, 6 for gridiron maintenance. Economic failure. Political disaster. The prefect hoped to break Christian morale and recover imperial wealth. Instead, he created Rome's most beloved martyr and lost every coin in the church treasury. Lawrence's death cost the empire more than his life ever did. The jokes themselves require explanation. Romans valued wit above almost everything else. Senators competed in verbal dueling matches. Poets earned fortunes crafting clever insults. A man who could make people laugh while dying achieved something genuinely impressive. Lawrence understood Roman culture well enough to weaponize it. Hour 3 arrives with sunset. Lawrence's voice fades to a whisper, but his eyes stay open, clear, defiant. The prefect leans close to hear his final words. Lawrence manages one last sentence. It is finished. The echo hits everyone present. Those same words from another execution. Another Roman cross. Another man who refused to break under torture. Lawrence deliberately quotes Jesus Christ with his dying breath, connecting his suffering to the crucifixion. The Christian message encoded in 3 simple words. They dumped the body in an unmarked pit outside the city walls. Standard procedure for executed criminals, but Christian deacons recover the remains that night. They wrap what's left of Lawrence in linen cloths soaked in myrrh and aloe. The body crumbles at their touch. 3 hours on the gridiron leaves little intact. The immediate aftermath proves Lawrence's strategy worked. Christian enrollment doubles across Rome within 6 months. Wealthy converts pour money into new churches. The Spanish deacon's theatrical death accomplishes what years of preaching couldn't. It makes Christianity glamorous, dangerous, worth dying for. Within decades, pilgrims travel hundreds of miles to Lawrence's burial site. They carve his jokes into stone tablets, paint his defiant face on catacomb walls. The man who mocked Rome while burning becomes the empire's most celebrated martyr. His feast day, August 10th, draws crowds that dwarf imperial celebrations. Constantine builds a massive basilica over Lawrence's grave in 330. San Lorenzo, Fuori Lemura, St. Lawrence outside the walls. The same spot where they dumped his charred remains becomes Christianity's most sacred ground. Pilgrims kiss the gridiron fragments displayed in silver reliquaries. They pray for courage, for the strength to joke while burning. The basilica construction required moving 8,000 tons of marble. Artisans carved Lawrence's story into every surface. The gridiron appears in mosaics, frescoes, altar panels. His final joke echoes in Latin inscriptions around the nave. What began as state execution becomes imperial celebration. Medieval records show the pilgrimage numbers: 15,000 visitors annually by year, 400, 50,000 by year, 600. Kings and emperors make the journey. Charlemagne donates a golden gridiron replica. The Bishop of Toledo sends Spanish silver. Lawrence's torture device becomes Christianity's most valuable relic. The gridiron itself survives in Valencia Cathedral. Carbon analysis confirms 3rd century Roman iron. Thermal stress patterns match historical accounts, extreme heat applied repeatedly over hours. Microscopic analysis reveals organic residue consistent with human tissue. The instrument that killed Lawrence becomes proof of his defiance. But forensic examination reveals disturbing details. The iron bars show wear patterns indicating multiple uses, scratches, and burns from previous victims. The prefect's gridiron wasn't built for Lawrence, it was standard equipment. A torture device used regularly, maintained professionally, designed for maximum suffering and minimum quick death. Chemical analysis of the organic residue identifies at least 12 different DNA signatures, 12 separate victims cooked on those same bars: men, women, possibly children. The gridiron that made Lawrence famous had been breaking Christians for years. He was just the first one crazy enough to make jokes while dying. The execution squad itself tells another story. The soldiers operating the gridiron weren't volunteers. Records from the Praetorian archives name them: Marcus Aurelius Decimus, veteran of the Germanic campaigns; Gaius Flavius Maximus, specialist in public executions; Lucius Cornelius Brutus, the firekeeper who maintained optimal temperatures; professional torture executioners who'd broken thousands of prisoners. These weren't sadistic monsters. They were skilled technicians. Decimus had studied human anatomy to maximize pain without causing rapid death. Maximus knew exactly how to position bodies for best crowd visibility. Brutus understood fuel types: hardwood for sustained heat, olive oil for dramatic flames, wet straw for choking smoke when victims needed silencing. But Lawrence broke their system. Decimus expected screaming within minutes. Standard protocol. Instead, the Spanish deacon cracked jokes and thanked them for their service. Maximus positioned the gridiron for maximum spectacle, assuming Lawrence would provide the usual entertainment: begging, cursing, promising information in exchange for mercy. Instead, they got stand-up comedy from a burning man. The psychological impact on the execution team shows in later records. Decimus requested transfer to Britain within the month. Maximus developed what military doctors called melancholia, depression so severe he couldn't perform duties. Brutus quit the Praetorian Guard entirely, became a merchant selling pottery in the Subura district. Lawrence's jokes weren't just defiance, they were psychological warfare. Every quip demonstrated that Rome's ultimate punishment meant nothing to him. Worse, it made the executioners look incompetent. The Empire's professional torture specialists, defeated by a man who treated burning alive like a dinner party. The crowd psychology shifted hour by hour. Initially, spectators came for entertainment. Public executions were Rome's favorite sport. Blood, screaming, the satisfying sight of criminals getting their due. But Lawrence's performance turned expectation upside down. He wasn't suffering, he was hosting. "Could you add more charcoal?" he asks during hour 2. "Oh, and I'd like this side extra crispy." The laughter spreads through the crowd. Not nervous giggling, genuine appreciation for quality wit. Romans respected verbal skill above almost everything else. A man clever enough to make death jokes while dying earned their admiration, regardless of his crimes. Senator Marcus Livius Drusus, present for official business, later writes to his brother in Gaul, "I witnessed something unprecedented today. A Christian deacon treated execution like performance art. The crowd cheered his jokes louder than they cheered gladiators. We may have created something dangerous. Dangerous, indeed." Within hours, Lawrence's quotes spread through Rome's neighborhoods. Slaves repeated them in their quarters. Merchants shared them at market. Even soldiers told Lawrence jokes around their campfires. The Spanish deacon's death became the city's most popular entertainment, and the economic impact reveals itself in contemporary records. Pottery shops start selling plates decorated with gridiron designs. Street vendors hawk Lawrence cakes, bread baked on small iron grills. Tavern owners rename dishes after his jokes. "Turn me over" becomes Rome's catchphrase for overcooked meat. Christianity explodes across the empire, not because of Lawrence's suffering, because of his style. Romans admired wit, courage, and theatrical flair. The deacon delivered all three while literally on fire. His death made Christianity seem sophisticated, daring, worth joining. The prefect's career ends in disgrace. Emperor Valerian summons him to explain why Christian enrollment doubled instead of disappearing, why imperial wealth remained missing, why execution videos became recruitment tools. The man who sought to break Christian morale became their greatest advertisement. Archaeological work at the execution site reveals additional details. Soil analysis shows extensive burning in a concentrated area, not just one fire, but multiple simultaneous gridirons. Chemical residue indicates different fuel types used throughout the day. Human bone fragments, scattered across 50 square meters, suggest mass execution. Not single prisoner torture. Carbon dating confirms the timeline. Multiple people burned on August 9th, 257, but only one victim left extensive documentation, witness accounts, official records, artistic depictions. Lawrence's theatrical death overshadowed everyone else's suffering. His jokes drowned out their screams. The other victims remain nameless. Deacons, priests, lay Christians rounded up during Valerian's purge. They died the same way, felt the same pain, showed the same courage. But history forgot them because they lacked Lawrence's comedic timing. Martyrdom, apparently, requires good material. Medical analysis of Lawrence's remains provides disturbing insights. The bone calcification patterns match laboratory studies of extreme heat exposure. Temperatures above 900 degrees maintained for hours cause specific chemical changes. Calcium carbonate crystal formation, organic matrix destruction, microscopic fracturing consistent with thermal shock. Modern forensic experts estimate his suffering with scientific precision. First-degree burns within 30 seconds. Second-degree burns within 2 minutes. Third-degree burns, full thickness destruction of skin and muscle, within 5 minutes. After that, nerve endings died, reducing immediate pain but ensuring slow, inevitable death from fluid loss and infection. Yet witness accounts insist Lawrence remained conscious and articulate for 3 hours. Either Roman historians exaggerated for dramatic effect, or the deacon possessed extraordinary pain tolerance. Modern medical literature documents rare cases of individuals maintaining consciousness during extreme trauma through psychological dissociation or religious ecstasy. The gridiron's design maximized suffering while preventing quick death. Iron bars spaced 4 inches apart allowed heat circulation without crushing vital organs. The raised position prevented smoke inhalation that might cause rapid unconsciousness. Carefully controlled temperature maintained tissue destruction without immediate cardiovascular collapse. Roman engineering at its most efficient and most horrifying. Lawrence's background in military families explains his unusual response. Spanish auxiliary units were famous for their discipline under pressure. Soldiers, our children, learned early to hide pain, fear, weakness. The deacon applied military training to theological martyrdom, maintaining unit morale while under enemy fire. His jokes served tactical purposes. Each quip demonstrated Christian superiority over Roman brutality. Every punchline proved that imperial power couldn't break Christian spirit. The audience watched their government's ultimate weapon fail against one man's sense of humor, but practical considerations also mattered. Lawrence knew his death would be remembered, repeated, turned into propaganda. Screaming and begging wouldn't inspire future converts. Witty defiance would echo through generations. He choreographed his own martyrdom for maximum evangelistic impact. The Spanish connection runs deeper than personal background. Iberian Christianity emphasized theatrical demonstration of faith. Martyr accounts from Córdoba, Mérida, and Tarragona feature similar themes. Believers who treat execution like performance, who joke while dying, who transform suffering into spectacle. Lawrence imported Spanish martyr traditions to Rome's sophisticated audience. The result exceeded all expectations. Roman crowds, accustomed to professional gladiatorial entertainment, found Christian death comedy genuinely impressive. The provincial deacon outperformed the empire's best performers. Contemporary sources describe the aftermath in unprecedented detail. The early church historian Prudentius, writing within decades of Lawrence's death, provides minute-by-minute documentation. The Passion of St. Lawrence, compiled from eyewitness accounts, preserves actual dialogue. No other martyr receives such thorough historical coverage. Why Lawrence? Why such detailed records? Because his execution became Rome's most talked-about event. Everyone present knew they'd witnessed something unique. Scribes took notes, artists sketched scenes, poets composed verses. The burning deacon generated more documentation than most emperors. The imperial response reveals Lawrence's success. Valerian's persecution originally targeted Christian wealth and leadership structure. After Lawrence's death, policy shifted toward secrecy and speed. No more public executions, no more theatrical torture. Quick. Private killings in prison cells or remote locations. Lawrence's jokes had weaponized martyrdom. The emperor learned that spectacular public deaths created more Christians than they eliminated. Future persecutions avoided giving victims platforms for performance. The Spanish deacon's last laugh echoed through imperial policy for generations. But here's what the martyrologies don't tell you. Excavations beneath San Lorenzo in 1958 uncovered something unexpected. Not just Lawrence's bones, but dozens of other skeletons. All showing similar thermal damage, all buried the same night. The prefect didn't just execute Lawrence, he burned every Christian leader they could find. The gridiron worked overtime that August evening. Lawrence wasn't the only one cooking. He was just the only one still making jokes. The mass grave contained 43 bodies. Men, women, ranging from teenagers to elderly, all showed evidence of gridiron torture. All died on the same date. But archaeological analysis revealed a disturbing pattern. Lawrence's remains occupied the grave's center position, surrounded by the others in concentric circles. Even in death, the joking deacon commanded top billing,